Ready to explore the cutting edge of digital infrastructure? I'm Carrie Charles, your host of Let's Get Digital. Join me as we dive into the ideas, technologies, and leaders transforming the way we connect, from wireless telecom to fiber networks, data centers, and beyond. Sponsored by Broadstaff in partnership with RCR Wireless News. Now, let's dive in and let's get digital.
Thanks for joining me on Let's Get Digital today. I'm Carrie Charles, your host, and I got a great show for you today. I met Jeremy at the Infrastructure Summit in Vegas by Structured Research. Super impressed with everything he's doing over at Hivelocity. So let me introduce to you Jeremy Pease. He is the CEO of Hivelocity. Jeremy, thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited you're here.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and talk a little bit about what we're doing here at Hivelocity.
All right, well, let's talk about you first. So tell me about you, Jeremy. How did you get into the space? And also, how did you get to your seat today?
Absolutely. So it's been an interesting journey, one that I, again, would not suggest to most, in all honesty. I don't think it's the traditional journey, but it's been one that I've enjoyed and come with a set of challenges, but also come with a set of rewards along the way. So, I really started out in technology. I didn't go straight to college after high school. We had technology in the house. I loved it, had a passion for it. So, I started working in the corporate world at 19 years old, was programming at Microsoft by 21, and then really built a career based on that and made my way up through the ranks. I've worked everything from support to networking to programming to project management. And then once, I managed there, I worked towards leadership roles and led development teams, led infrastructure teams, and managed a number of cloud platforms and deployments on the infrastructure side, which eventually led me to becoming a part of the data center world, which, again, as I mentioned, was my transition to the dark side, if you will. And, really have enjoyed what's going on here. And obviously over the last 3 to 5 years, as I'm sure we'll talk about later, this industry has changed dramatically, but, when I started 12 years ago, started really doing leadership on the customer support side, worked through operations at every level, becoming a COO. And then I thought that's really where I wanted to be one day, was I wanted to be a COO. That was always my goal. And then I became a COO and I realized I still didn't have the impact on the business that I wanted to have. And so I started my journey towards becoming a CEO. And 3 years ago, I started here at Hivelocity. It's been an amazing ride and, just really excited about what we're doing here at Hivelocity. And the reason I chose it is because I believe the technology, the platform, and everything that we were doing was a great opportunity to really build on in this space. And so I'm happy to be here and pleased with the way the journey turned out in the long run.
Your journey is so inspiring for young people looking at getting into the technology world, getting into the data center world, and the twists and turns that you took. You said you didn't go to college right away. A lot of young people are making those decisions now. So I just think it's just so inspirational. And I know that I'm going to be sharing this episode with the young people in my life for sure.
Absolutely. Again, not traditional journey, not sure I suggest it to everyone, but it allowed me to learn a lot about what I needed to understand in the business world. And it allowed me to be a little more focused and specific when I did go back to school and took that, in the nights, on the weekends while working full time. But, it really did allow me to be focused on where I wanted to go and what I wanted to accomplish and what I wanted to get out of a degree at the end of the day. So I guess there is, some positives in terms of that for those that decide to go that route.
So who is Hivelocity?
Hivelocity is a cloud, bare metal, and retail colocation provider that's really focused on edge deployments. So we have over 50 data centers across 6 continents with the intent of being able to provide low latency solutions for customers that really want to get to the population as a whole, is the way I like to put it. And so, we specialize for gaming customers. So for all the youth that love their games, we really put infrastructure out there so that no matter where you live or where you're at, you can get a gaming interaction with low latency. So you're not getting any delays on your games. Video streaming, we've streamed things such as Thursday Night Football, English Premier League, right? The need to be able to get out to all these households and all these locations. And, right now we have a lot of cryptocurrency validator nodes across the world. And so it really is a matter of looking at customers that really need high performant environments that are compliant, but they're cost conscious. And we're able to provide those types of solutions for those customers out there.
Bare metal solutions. What is that for those people who don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So bare metal's been on an interesting journey in this space, honestly, over the last 6 to 8 years. Before it was, we put a bunch of servers in a rack for you, and then all of a sudden we just gave you access and you figured out how you wanted to configure it. You put your operating system on it and you did all your development on it. It's really changed over, the last 6 to 8 years. As I said, more people have put automation on top of it and really allowed developers to go in, kind of like they do on the public cloud providers, and go ahead and I can just go ahead and spin up these devices where I want them. I can connect them together and I have all the automation on top of it that I want. And so it really allows them to, again, any of our locations across the world, spin up a server, be able to put what they want on top of it. And that's where developers can come in and utilize those servers. So the bare metal really is just saying, instead of cloud where we provide all this virtualization and support and patching and monitoring, it's we're putting servers out there where they don't have to purchase those servers. We purchase them, we put them in a rack, they've got automation, and they can just access it and do whatever they want with those servers.
Got it. So, what types of problems are you solving in the world right now?
Yeah, so I mean, we're really solving having access to infrastructure in geographies that people need them to be in, and doing that at that low latency capability that people are looking for. And really, I say, where do we differentiate? Where do we help people that are looking to get this type of compute? I call it the 4 C's plus E. We're simplifying it in terms of cost. We're very, very cost effective, especially against the public cloud providers. We simplify the complexity. We make it very simple to interact and access all of our technology. We allow compliance. We can allow for dedicated environments, which you can't get in the big cloud providers. We can make dedicated environments that are very, very sophisticated in terms of being able to be very dedicated to a customer and allow them to be very compliant for like banking, finance, industries like that, the medical industry, and then customer service. We provide great customer service. And then E is the edge piece that I talked about, being able to do that anywhere you want across the world. And if we're not there already, we can usually get there pretty quickly.
Got it. So, what about AI? Where is Hivelocity really leaning into AI right now?
Absolutely. So for those that are familiar with AI and kind of its transition that it's making right now, or those that are not, AI is really broken down into two main pieces. One is called training and one is called inference. And so training is when the AI models are learning. And those are massive, massive pieces. When everybody talks about AI is taking down all this power, it's this high compute performance, all of that, that's really on the training side because these models are trying to learn. And so they're shifting a huge amount of data into these models, and it's just sitting there processing and learning and continuing to iterate. Then there's inference. And inference is where the end users actually start to use it. So when you go into ChatGPT and you research something and you get an answer from ChatGPT, that's really the inference model. It did a lot of learning to get to the points where you can use it. And so obviously this training's all happening in these massive facilities, but those don't have to distribute that information out. Where we come into play with AI is when you start looking at edge locations. You're starting to get Chat GPT out to every country and every location and every household and every cell phone. You've got to be able to distribute that in a much wider, broader platform. And that's where we come in. We can actually set that up, structure it to where these people can access it and do that at a lower latency. So again, you're not putting in a question to Chat GPT and it takes 10 minutes to get a feedback. People want that to be instant. And so that's where providers like us help these technologies get to the end user at the end of the day.
Got it. So, the industry right now really feels like a pressure cooker. I mean, every event that I attend, everyone I talk to, I mean, it's just hair on fire, right? And trying to solve problems left and right. Demand, AI, sustainability, power constraints. What keeps you up at night? And what opportunities are you most excited to chase?
Yeah, I think the thing that keeps me up at night is just supply and demand in this industry, whether that's power. For us, that's not as huge an issue because usually we can get that at the size and scale that we are. But I think about hardware, and it's a constant conversation. On our executive call this morning, it was, can we get this hardware in the time frame needed to meet the customer expectations? And so, supply chain is really changed since 2020, and it continues to be an area where the number of chips that are being created, the technology, and being able to create and put all that together on a regular basis just has created so many challenges on the supply chain side. So I think that's the thing that keeps me up at night. But at the same time, the excitement is that this technology that's being built and everything that's happening enables an improvement of life and the ability to do things much quicker, much more simply. It improves, even within our business, the ability for employees to do things in a more automated fashion, right? I don't look at AI as some do as it's going to replace all the employees. I look at all the ways it makes them better. I think about myself as an executive and I go, man, I really, really suck at presentations. Like I cannot create a PowerPoint that is pretty for anything. I wind up with a wall of text all the time. And now there's these AI tools. You put it in, you have a wall of text, and they create these amazing images and these amazing presentations that make it better. And even some of my executives use, office tools such as for Outlook, where it actually goes through all of their email, organizes it in a way for them, structures actual responses for those emails in ways that they could utilize. So I think I get excited about all the ways that we're going to be able to utilize technology to improve the performance of the workforce that we have today.
I could not agree more. I'm just curious about this idea of challenges and what keeps you up at night, supply chain, or any challenges for that matter, because there are so many in the digital infrastructure space right now. In every area that we look, there's a challenge, right? And I know leaders are just faced with these, mega problems, if you will. So how do you solution with your team? And
Yeah, I
how
think
do you get to the right place?
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's one of those areas where, making sure that you have leaders who understand what's going on at every level of their organization and being in tune with the rest of the organization. One of the things that, I pride myself in terms of communicating with the organization is also being open to communication the other direction and making sure that any type of staff, no matter what level that they're at, that I'm having that communication. And I've heard that from a number of leaders that, if you're not listening to people at every level and talking to people at every level, then you're missing some things. You have gaps. And I think that's where great leaders really excel in terms of being able to problem solve, is because they've kept an ear to the ground, not only inside of the business, outside of the business, how are others handling this, but it's really just constantly being educated on the best ways to deal with it, as well as what's really happening in the business. And so for me, when I sit down with the team, I want leaders who are doing the same as I am, having all those conversations, focused on learning from the industry, from others, so that when we sit down, it really is a problem solving thing. And it's one of the things I love to do is get on a whiteboard. How do we figure this out? How do we solution this? And what really is the best solution at the end of the day? And so those are the types of conversations that I get excited about. And those are the meetings that I want to jump into. So I think that's really the way we do it and the way that I continue to think about it.
I couldn't agree more. When you have those conversations at all levels, then you build trust and people feel safe to tell you the truth, right? They don't become yes people. They start to innovate because they're telling you, really how they feel. So I just think that's brilliant. If you could change one thing about how the data center industry operates today, what would it be? And then also, how is Hivelocity, ready to lead that change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about the data industry and where I would see it wanting to change. And actually just had that conversation this week at Data Center Dynamics in Northern Virginia. What would we change? Because somebody actually asked that from the audience. And I thought, wow, that's a great question. I think it is. There's a lot of focus on the big players in the space right now. And it's just, how are we going to deliver for these big guys? And think about how we get hundreds of megawatts to gigawatts worth of capacity out there. And I think one of the things is there's so many different solutions, so many different options. I know we're all chasing the big guys, but there's still so many other pieces of the industry that need to be delivered to. And so one of those pieces is, how do you deliver some of these people that only need like a megawatt worth of power or 500 kilowatts worth of power? How do we make sure that everybody in the industry can continue to deliver for the customers in the way they need? Because hyperscalers are not the only answer. The public cloud providers are not the only answer. The neo cloud providers are not the only answer in the industry. And so that's where we continue to talk to bigger data center platforms and providers. It's where we continue to look at when we build, we're not building for these big guys. We're building for the rest of the market that really still need a solution at the end of the day. So how can we provide retail colocation in a way that's meaningful to the rest of the industry? And so I think that's where I think I'd love to see a little bit of a more focus and a change from the industry. And that's how we're trying to help and impact that area of the space.
Let's go back to people for a bit. Culture and leadership really matter when you're scaling fast. I mean, it just matters all the time. So, how do you grow people and leaders, keep standards high, hold teams accountable, keep them inspired in this, again, this pressure cooker we call the data center industry, right? Digital infrastructure.
Yeah, I will say I'm amazed by our teams constantly in terms of what they're accomplishing, what they're doing in such a space that is so competitive and so difficult. I mean, people don't sometimes understand 24/7 and what that really means to operate and for customers to expect to be up and operational 24/7. It is extremely complex, and we're in a space where nobody is thankful when you're doing it 99.999% of the time. No, that 0.0001% where there's downtime, that's when they really want to reach out. And so our teams are doing a lot of work of making sure that when customers need migrations, we do that smoothly and successfully with little impact. The support team, as soon as something happens, look, technology is going to fail. It happens. That is the way that these things go, but we've got to be able to manage that. And so I'm thankful for our teams, but when you think about that and you try to manage culture, it's being understanding of what the teams are going through. And so for me, it's transparency and communication. Look, I think, Patrick Lencioni has talked about it in books after books of communicate, over communicate, constantly be in communication with your people, talking about your values, talking about what you're trying to accomplish. What is the main goal and across the entire organization? What are you really focused on? Because when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so every month we have an all hands call. And on that all hands call, one of the things we do is one of our values is aim to amaze. And so people submit actual instances of other employees and what they did, which was an absolute amazing experience, either for the customer or internally. And I will say, even this last week, when we did it on Halloween, and I went through and there were 4 pages of slides of people just recognizing everybody's efforts. And I speak through every one of those, not just say, hey, I'm going to read some of these highlights and then we're going to, you can read about it later. No, I want to talk about every one. And I try to make it personal in each of those. And part of me understanding and knowing the employee base, it is being able to recognize each person and say, man, they're out in LA. They're doing a phenomenal job, even though that's not in what is described there. But by knowing the employees, by knowing what's going on and making that personal, it's not just the shout out that they got from somebody else, but they know that the executive team knows them, knows where they're at, knows what they're doing, and appreciates what they're doing. And so it really is about communication. It's about recognition, and it's about ensuring that your values are known throughout the organization and people are finding a way to engage with those values and live those values. And so to me, that's such a critical thing. I mean, it wasn't my second week that I was here that we sat down as a leadership team and we went through mission, vision, values, and that was priority number 1 for me. So we've been doing that for 3 years now. We've done them all hands every month in the 3 years that I've been here to make sure we're communicating with the employee base, recognizing the people that for the amazing work that they're doing.
You have your priorities in the right place, Jeremy. You sure do. So Hivelocity is known for custom solutions, and I read a lot about this on your website. So what does custom really look like in your world? And please share a couple of use cases that show how you've solved tough problems for customers.
Absolutely. So, in an industry where the public cloud has, these are the options that you have in this location, and this is what you can take, and that's it. You can't reach out to them and say, well, I want these servers in this location and I want it at this latency speed. You can't do that. And a number of others of our competitors are the same way. What we have on our site is what you can work with, and we're not really going to have a conversation with you about anything different because that's not what we do. But for us, we know that there are customers that need specific gear in specific locations with specific latency capabilities. And so that's where we jump in and the customer says, hey, this is exactly what I need. This is where I need it. How quickly can you get it there? And we will work with them to customize a solution that matches their needs. And so, a very specific example is these validation nodes. We just sent over 100 servers to 5 different locations: Singapore, Amsterdam, New York, Dallas, LA, specifically with the very specific type of server that they wanted, and delivered those to each of those locations with the high internet capacity that they wanted to be able to deliver to their end user. And so that's really where we continue to excel for customers. We have other customers that we've done that for, again, gaming, streaming. You think about being able to deliver to multiple regions across the UK, Germany, all over Europe, to be able to stream, Premier League soccer, for Amazon directly. Being able to do that takes very, very specific needs. And so those are some use cases that we've used. And that's really what it means for us, is just saying, we understand that the customers need something beyond what just sits on a website. They need somebody who can give them exactly what they want, where they want it, with all the capacity necessary.
What is your vision for Hivelocity over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I want to continue to grow this organization. I want to be able to continue to meet the customer's needs at the end of the day. And it's not changing where we are in terms of products. We'll continue to improve upon our core products and be able to do more and continue to provide greater technology for our customers within those products. But it really is about, how are we going to continue to enable inference AI to distribute across the globe? How can we enable that? How can we make that work? And how can we continue to deliver for the rest of the infrastructure needs? Because everybody's so focused on AI right now, they forget that even the traditional infrastructure is still growing at an astronomical pace. We still have to be able to support that. So understanding both of those and continuing to grow our capabilities around that. And it's continued focus on the core two pieces that we built this business on. And it is, we want to provide automation when a customer wants it, and we want to provide customer service when a customer needs it. And as long as we are doing that, then I think that differentiates us from a lot of players in the space, because a lot do one or the other, but very few do both well. And so we'll continue to focus on that around the technology needs of our customers going forward.
Talent is a huge issue in our industry, in attracting talent, finding talent. Do you have any specific strategies that has worked for you, your team, with, let's just say, talent acquisition, finding the right people?
Look, I think I mentioned earlier, recruiting was one of those pieces that I did, and it's actually something that I really enjoyed. I actually built a recruitment program with university recruitment and all of that kind of stuff for a government consulting firm in DC. And I could tell you, it's one of those jobs that I truly enjoyed. And so talent acquisition is near and dear to my heart personally. It really is. And that's because when I find talent, I also want to make sure that they're going to blend into the culture, because it's not just about their talents and skills. It's about, will they blend into our culture? And so I think there's two things that I think of when I think talent acquisition. When you go to the higher end for those types of needs where you really need a very senior person, we really hit our referral network. I mean, this is such a big space, but such a small space that, for those of us that have been leaders in this space for a while, we know great people. And so we usually reach out to those types of people. And I think that's where we find a lot of successes. We know their culture of that person. We know their capabilities. We know that they will fit into what we're doing. And so when we go on the higher end, that's usually where we go. If not, we obviously continue to recruit and try to find the right talent and make sure that we do that. And we'll even use firms as necessary to help us in those searches, because we know that it's critical in helping find that right talent. Right. And then I think when we think about the entry level pieces of the organization, we're much more open to understanding that people aren't going to have this perfect resume for an entry level position. We need to be able to train them. We need to be able to engage them. And so, we have a training platform that we've invested in and made sure that we've spent a lot of time and effort into ensuring that we can get people up to speed and we can help them learn what they need to be successful in their roles and then build their career throughout the organization so that eventually they can be in that top tier talent. So I think that's really where, when we think about talent acquisition, there's multiple fronts, multiple ways you got to deal with it based on the role and what you're looking for. But there's so many ways to do it. It's just a matter of, are you focused on the right talent, the right skills, and the right blend of those to find a success for your organization?
What drives you, Jeremy?
People. I really, really enjoy the people aspect of this. I coached high school sports when I was programming early on in my career. I could do that early in the morning, and then in the afternoons and evenings, I was coaching high school sports. I was coaching select sports, and I loved that early on because it's about growing, youth and growing them into the people that they're going to be one day. And so now I get to do that from a business perspective. And that's why being a CEO is such a great role for me, because I can focus on the business, I can focus on where we have success, but if people are growing along that path, that's something that's meaningful to me. Seeing people that have grown based on career pathing that I've done with them or just mentoring them, it's what gets me up and what makes me want to come in every day is continue to engage that way. I continue to do that. I was on another career pathing session this morning with one of my team members, got more to do next week, and it just, the people and helping them engage and find a way to have success in their career is what I love about what I do.
Jeremy, this has been wonderful. I mean, I can just feel you are a passionate, dedicated leader that cares. You care. And that trickles down. So I'm sure that is the same with every single person on your team at Hivelocity. And how do we reach you? Tell us your website, maybe the careers page. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are saying, I want to work for Hivelocity right now.
Absolutely. So www.hivelocity.net. And so Hivelocity is spelled Hivelocity. So www.hivelocity.net. We do have a careers page there. You should be able to find that initially on the main homepage. If you're interested, we do have multiple positions open and available right now that we're actively recruiting for. So please do visit. And look, as a person that wants to engage with people at every level, I stay up with my LinkedIn. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, Jeremy Pease, CEO of Hivelocity, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will engage with anybody that's looking for a position. I had somebody who said, hey, I submitted on your page, but I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you a little bit about my background. I absolutely responded back and forth with them to talk a little bit about that and how they might have success, with our positions in the organization. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. But you could definitely go to our main page and our careers page to find out more about what we're looking for right now in terms of talent out there.
And what are you looking for in terms of opportunity for Hivelocity? What types of customers?
Absolutely. I mean, it continues to be our ideal customer profile that we've identified. Streaming, gaming, those that really need to get to more edge locations, inference AI companies. That's really what we're looking for, is to enable those customers that need, a little bit of a different option in terms of a dedicated solution, someone who can customize that for them and provide them exactly what they want. So if you have a small IT team or you have a large IT team, it doesn't matter. We're here with a server solution that can be cost effective, compliant, and provide you exactly what you need with a great service experience and automation underlying underneath that.
Thank you, Jeremy. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Carrie. I greatly appreciate the time.
Alrighty, you take care. See you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Let's Get Digital. This podcast is powered by Broadstaff, a national staffing firm specializing in digital infrastructure talent. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and join me next time as we explore more stories at the intersection of technology, talent, and transformation. Until then, let's get digital.